How's everybody doing? Another CIRF report. This is going to be the week that completes the hero's journey. As we mentioned last week, we have a continuing T-square on Uranus with the sun, the ego, the identity, and the horrors that go along with the T-square. Oh my goodness. But that completes this week. So let's go surfing. What else do we want to say? I have so many comments from all you guys, and thank you for the shares and likes. It's really making a difference, and thank you mostly for the comments and the conversations that we're having, particularly on both YouTube and Telegram. And if you want that Telegram link, we encourage you to be down there. That is in the link below. So click on that and join us. All right. Well, here's our summary slide. I forgot to get my pointer focus out. So this one's interesting. All right. I'm going to spend a little bit of time here describing the influence. And I think, as always, you're going to be really surprised when we get to the solution. This influence sort of feels like it's over. Finally, we've been redeemed. Maybe a savior comes or everything's fixed. I think that's what this whole I-Ching is suggesting, but there's much, much more to the story. You know, like if you can feel like coming back from the journey or from the forest as a young boy, and toiling with the animals and the monsters and getting in and then winning the battle and coming back to the village. This is the return. And you imagine what that feels like. It feels probably feel drained. You feel like you have a lot of stories to tell. You have a lot of people who care about you, want to hear your story. It's just all that considered. I think that's what the I-Ching is pointing at, which is deliverance. But we're going to be talking also about astrology. And like I mentioned before, this is the period of time before all of the outer planets go into retrograde. Right now, we just have 4 of them. And then we still have this Uranus T-square, and that involves the Sun, Saturn, and Uranus. So we'll talk about that. We still have Pluto sextile Neptune. These are 2 retrograding planets that are far, far out there. So this is a slow moving sextile that's going to be here for a while, and it's still applicable. And this one is sort of watch the water. And the Dreambot just happens to be watch the water as well. It's a small meme, but mainly conversations of the past. This one has to do with the hero's journey. This is talking about the deliverance, or talking about the those massive war stories from the past. That's just where the Dreambot is. That's where the collective unconscious is. It's a pretty high congruency score again, and everything is well within the astrology. Again, there's so much going on in a tropical astrology. I can't possibly cover it all. I probably will miss some things, but the big thing is, I already missed it on the slide, is a Leo new moon. And so that's the biggest part of this hero's journey. But the solution is going to be about Leo. So hang on to your hats. Make sure that you tune in to the last part of this slideshow, because I've got an extra, not slideshow, but a video. I've got an extra bonus pack for the new moon, okay? And what the collective or what the guidance is for this week is not just about rolling over and, thanking everyone else or thanking someone for doing all the work, and now we get to live in utopia. That's not this. This is the influence. So it's going to feel like deliverance, but in reality, it's going to be us that does the brunt of the work. So hang into the solution, but just wanted to give this overview for now. Let's go ahead and get started with the Dreambot next. And take a moment now to like down below, and thank you for sharing this video. All right. So the dream bot, this is the collective unconscious. This is important because we need to know where people are, what they're dreaming about, because we need to know what their subconscious mind is doing. And at a collective level, we look for similarities, overlaps. So the blue arrows signify water, including clouds and cloud. We have river and island and fish. So there's watch the water, definitely there, and it happens to be blue. And then we have this really strange meme, but it's stories up at the top, and it's sort of everything in the past. So it's yesteryear. It's stories about yesteryear is a very clear but very unusual meme, and that's in the red arrows. Then I thought I would include a linguistics. It says survival, palace, stories, great. That just matches perfectly with this hero's journey, the return, the times that we're living in. Can you imagine the masses who've survived this are going to be talking to their grandkids about what just atrocious situations were here. So this is a time to be living in, and a lot of us, from what I gather, are not living in fear, but living in this hope and expectation of some huge breakthrough or several breakthroughs. All right, so let's get into astrology. All righty, here we go. Well, let's get to the top. First, I want to cover, I can't possibly cover everybody's comments, and just wanted some shout outs. Kirsten for posting the music from last week. These lyrics indeed are, and I didn't actually go read the lyrics, but I knew that the lyrics were close to what we were talking about and needing to hear. And and these lyrics still apply, actually. Face Everything and Rise. The link is in the last video. If you haven't heard that song, I think it's important and applicable for this week as well. D. Ivis says that they went and listened to the song and rocked out for a minute. So I'm glad that the message got through. Rita says that, and this was over on Telegram, in a satanic ritual, the abuser must tell you what they are going to do before they do it. This way they feel the victim gives them consent. And she says, we do not consent to this devil's actions. Well, I want to reiterate here that I do not consent. And I think you all should at least verify to yourself that you don't consent to some things that are happening right now. You do consent to other things that are happening, such as free will and people empowering themselves to demand their free will. Terry gives some laws and amendments associated with these things that we're worried about. And so go look up on Telegram. You can find that. Brian, this is really interesting. I'm going to hold on for a second. I'm going to read most of this. Chris, you're always on point. Thank you. The stars don't lie. You are Toto. The truth in a land of confusion. Thanks for everything you are. Feel the positive energy coming from a long ways away from me, but I can feel it, and I am in California and you are not. My relatives are from Arkansas, and I was guessing I'd say you lived in an area somewhere, maybe Missouri, but I will say Arkansas. Well, great guess, Brian. Spot on. But here he goes even further. Not southeast ricefield mosquito infested Arkansas, but more Ozarky. Just guessing. Something is happening worldwide. But anyway, this Brian's got some talent there. So spot on with all that assessment. And Brian, I'm saying you're right. Michelle says, like, shared, and love your reports. Thank you so much, Michelle. And Default says, interesting. CIRF feels somewhat applicable to the week I've been just through, and more than upcoming. However, I can see the challenges manifesting and agree There is work to be done in navigating them to create a more fulfilled self. This is the foreshadowing to the solution slide. There's a lot that's going to be required of us individually, okay? And default says it well. Northern Lady says, watch the water. And this is also foreshadowing of today's CIRF report, like I mentioned before. All right, thanks. And thanks everybody for commenting. It's important to me to see our support. And I love that we have a tribe here that is not just like-minded. We're not an echo chamber. We challenge each other and we try to seek the truth, period. And we don't get bent out of shape when someone doesn't agree, but we're doing that so that we find the truth instead of boosting our egos. All right. So what we have here, remember that Saturn square Uranus is still a thing, because as evidenced by this red bar here, that goes all the way across and it's going to go the rest of this year pretty much. Let me darken this up. And this is important because the change and the insight and the eccentricity of Uranus, as well as electricity from Uranus and technology, is putting havoc and putting pressure on the status quo for change, and vice versa. There's a war going on to keep things the same and changing them. And Uranus is about freedom and anti-establishment. So there you go. Who's going to win that battle? Well, I think most pressure is on Uranus. And so I'm calling for Uranus to be the ultimate winner here in this squared up energy. Later on, Mercury is going to enter into Virgo. That's going to be at the end of this week. And that's a good thing because Mercury is in fall in Leo, meaning that it's the mind confusion mind is a little bit limited in the fall. It's a little bit weaker, but not only that, it's still within that combust area within 8 degrees of the sun. So we've got even weaker sort of mind. So mentally this week is going to be challenging. The following CIRF week, we're going to start with Mercury going into Virgo, and that's going to feel a lot more crystal clear on at least mental aptitude. The other thing I'd like to point out is all the red and all the blue. The blue is the inconjuncts, and this is representative of adjustments that are being made. Everybody's adapting right now because as above, so below. And that adaptation process produces stress. Stress is anxiety, and it wreaks havoc on the immune system. So as everyone else is adapting, just give space, give people a little bit more room to do their adapting, but don't take it personally. It's just they're being influenced. And you guys have a heads up on that now. This is a mess of a slide. There's just so much going on in the stars. But the biggest one is, well, like I talked about before, it's Mercury is first one of the big ones because it's double weak, meaning that it's in a fall in Leo and it's within 8 degrees of the sun. So double whammy on mental aptitude, communication, short-term travel, maybe even contract making, thinking logically, rationalizing. This explains a lot of this very poor logic that so many people are using to continue the vector of what's going on in the world. So it's not just them being idiots. I mean, we're all idiots in terms of mind right now. So it's going to last another week, and then we'll be sort of out of the woods in terms of that goes. The other thing that's happening is that Venus is in Virgos, another fall. So all of a sudden, beauty tend to get really self-critical. Maybe be very self-conscious. Maybe we have a lot of shoulds about what we should or shouldn't do in terms of how we look and how we relate to other people, particularly our very close relationships. All that's weakened. And so maybe those combined it's going to wreak havoc on relationships. So again, having more space for other people to have their confusion, and don't take everything so personally. Just be the observer more this week. It's just a sort of a foundation. Be the observer. I think that's going to be true in a lot of weeks, but especially this week. All right, now let's go into all the other stuff here. I already talked about the T-square, and that means that we have a 90-degree square on Sun and Mercury, square Uranus. That's bringing huge amounts of pressure to change. There's like the Sun is changing ego and self-identity, and that could manifest in all sorts of things like change of career path. It could be changing needs and wants and desires in there. It's almost returning like a childlike state with the Sun in Leo. And there's this pressure to change or pressure to get insight. Uranus is an insight too. Pressure for freedom or to assess my level of need of freedom. All that is in question. And then it's not indicated here, but there is a square. Remember, this chart eliminates the lines after 4 degrees, but this square is valid up to 8 degrees. And so that's Uranus square Saturn. The line's not there. I should have probably diagrammed that in for you, but I didn't. So we're in a T-square, and this is the hero's return. The Saturn is at 9 degrees of Aquarius. Uranus is at 14 degrees Taurus. So that's still within 5 degrees. So still well within the orb of a square, still a valid square, which means we still have that hero's journey sort of feeling. Talked about all those energies. Relationships feeling deeply powerful because we have, even though Venus is in a fall, that's sort of more oriented towards self-concept and self-identity and how to feel, how to look, appear beautiful on the outside, but on the inside is where Pluto is. So at least we have that. We have this weird, like highly vulnerable to the outside world feeling with Venus, but we have this weird sense of internal power that you can only access if you have good internal awareness and deep subconscious awareness. That might be an oxymoron. Deep subconscious awareness. In other words, if your subconscious is more in the preconscious, where you can access more of that material, or if you do a lot of dream work, or if you're really good with emotional awareness, these are the things that you'll be able to tap into with Pluto. It's your inner power. And there's also this death rebirth sort of a context to Pluto. And that's important because we have a sextile, Pluto, sextile Neptune. And this is kind of like a love triangle. It's a transformative power, but it's a love and fantasy when you've got Neptune as the fantasy, relationship and love is Venus. So there's this sort of deep inner transformation, inner power, dreams and fantasy, and balancing that with the sort of the weakened sense of beauty and harmony with other people. Wow, that was a mouthful. All right, let's move on to Friday the 6th. I don't have a lot here because not a whole lot changes. You still have the T-square that's still within the confines of those orbs. We have Mars that is fresh into Virgo, so there's this sense of more detailed oriented about what you're going to do and what you're going to fight for. A lot of thought goes into that. A lot of shoulds are in there, so you're kind of ruled by guilt a little bit on what it is you're fighting for. So just notice how that manifests in your life. And I think in general, we've talked about everything else. You notice where the moon is, getting into its sort of final phase before the new moon. This is now getting into the weekend, Saturday the 7th. We have a lot of oppositions. So this is going to feel more on the August 7th sort of feel out of kilter, a little bit out of balance. You have to struggle to be in balance. And you're going to be looking at yourself going, why can't I be in balance? You're going to notice some areas in your life that aren't in balance. Okay. That's the main thing here. And look at this. All of these planets are much closer to Earth. Excuse me. All these planets up here are closer and faster moving. All these planets down here are the further out planets, slower moving, and most of them are retrograde. Pretty soon Uranus will be in retrograde too. So in other words, it's the outer part of ourselves out of balance from the inner part of ourselves. Just thought I'd point that out. Sunday, the 8th, this is Lionsgate, and it's a new moon in Leo. Now check this out. Lionsgate 8. Well, 8 plus 8 equals 16. So the sun and the moon come together perfectly in a conjunction at 16 degrees, Leo, and almost 16 minutes. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it's not right at 16, but when the moon gets to 16, it's still a brand new moon. Okay. And, so anyway, thought I'd point that out. Now in Leo, we have the Mercury, the mind, communication. It is just about out of the woods in terms of combust. So I'm going to rule that out, but it's still in fall. So still confused, still weakened. And so we're focusing just really on the sun and the moon as it relates to Uranus at the time of the new moon. So this is a cycle. This is a breakthrough energy because of the pressure between the sun, moon, and Uranus. There's a pressure there. A pressure for what? Well, everything that ego is, but this is going to be the phase of the next moon. So this is the Leo moon. It's a Leo cycle and roughly 30 days in this cycle. And the stamp of at the time of the new moon is going to maintain through that cycle. So we've got a huge pressure for massive change, but also anti-establishment, eccentricism, being different than the rest, might be a loner. Uranus is sort of a loner, and that's a double whammy on this relationship thing. So make sure if you're in a loving relationship, make sure you give extra space for the other to go through this pressure cooker of freedom, genius, insight, non-attachment, and even sort of an overhaul of ego. And what that means, I mean, you've got the ego itself, the sun in Leo, mid stage, right in the middle of Leo. And so both of those are working this out, and that pressure will release at some point. And it might release for you in the next few days. It might release for you within this 30-day period. And some sort of change for you personally, individually. Let's see here. What am I missing? It's a new moon. I was going to say something else, but I think I've got the majority of it. Let me check looking for the T-square here just to make sure. Now there is no T-square. It's within 7 degrees. So it's a late stage T-square. So you've got the opposition from sun, moon over to Saturn, but it's a really loose opposition. It's at 7 degrees, but technically still within. So you've got a loose T-square still. This is the final part of that journey. So that means throughout this whole month, you're also going to have that return, deliverance, hero's journey sort of feeling, storytelling, maybe that rebirthing sort of a thing, but you're past the halfway point. You're past the growth state. Now you're out. The hero's journey is more about now becoming more of the elder in the village and giving advice. And this is what the solution is going to be like. Okay, so I'll just stop there. Make sure you hang out to the solution. Monday the 9th, we have Mars again and the moon together. Easy to change to the right fight because Mars picks up a trine over to Uranus. So this easy energy now where you're sort of second guessing yourself before when Mars was trying to get some stuff done, like Virgo on the one hand could be a good planner, but can also be OCD-ish. And so now you're sort of a perfectionistic Mars, but this time you're easy to adapt to the right fight. Mars is the fighter, or easy for the battlefield to change itself. And I thought that was at a great collective level, could be a great thing. The battlefield might change. Then we have Mars and Neptune go exact. They're right at 22 degrees in their respective signs. That means that energy of fantasy and love, balancing fantasy and love, you get the strongest. Whatever energy presents for you, it'll be the strongest on Monday. On Tuesday the 10th, we have a new opposition with Mercury in its last stage of Leo in the fall and opposite of Jupiter. So we've got the higher mind, the transcendent mind, needing to be balanced with the lower weakened rational mind. Just going to have to balance those out, and you'll be faced with situations in order to do that. Wednesday the 11th, I've got a FEMA notice here where they're planning on doing I might as well just show it before I move it out, but a nationwide emergency alert test for August 11th. I don't know, folks. I don't know if that's really going to net anything. Some people are hopeful. That's fine to hope. But for me, I'll believe it when I see it. But I thought I would at least point that out. Wednesday the 11th, Mercury is almost out of the woods. And that'll be nice when Mercury goes into Virgo. Easily to plan, easy to figure things out, prioritize, etc. All those things become very easy. This love triangle or love fantasy triangle that we talked about earlier becomes much more energized with emotions, and you might be more easily swayed by other people's emotions. And we still have that Mars trine Uranus, so there might be a technology component to this. So easy to fight through technology. You might see the fight upped, easy to go through technology, Uranus being the technology as well. So you'll probably see more fighting on technology. Whew. All right, let's take a break. Let's get into the I-Ching. Now, we have 2 hexagrams to go through. This is the influence portion, and it's hexagram 40. This is deliverance. A feeling of clarity and fresh opportunity follows a thunderstorm or at any time of extreme tension or obstacles. In this case, it's the extreme tension on Uranus, the one that wants to break through and be different and transform and change the world. That is Uranus. And so this is that feeling. We're going to have that pressure be released sometime in this next cycle. The storm, the storm has had the effect of clearing the air and suddenly reducing atmospheric tension. This symbolizes some kind of deliverance is at hand. So the individual lines, line 1 says a few words are needed. The recent obstacles are being overcome. And even if you don't see this on the outside, probably because everything gets censored, then don't just automatically believe it's not happening. You don't need evidence. It's happening. Line 2, the success you enjoy is rooted in your integrity, in contrast to the clever and cunning deceits of some around you. It may be time to consider carefully whom you choose to work or partner with. Line 6. the top line, when your main obstacle is a cunning adversary, forceful removal of that person may be the only option. Interesting, considering very recent developments at the collective level. The solution is, I'm going to go right into the solution now. This is our transition to here's what you do. Here's how you behave through this week and through this lunar month. Cutting through, hexagram 21. Current circumstances call for confronting a thorny situation and cutting through it. Somehow the way to harmony and unity is blocked or frustrated. Really? Is that right? Wow, it's amazing how this I-Ching works. Perhaps by a tangle of deceit or corruption. Really? Take decisive action and you will meet with good fortune and even your destiny. Don't be afraid to shake things up a bit. Those who bring discipline to bear must, above all, be honest with others and themselves. Honesty is the hallmark of the strong and self-confident. Though your actions may be vigorous, they must not be hasty, severe, or arbitrary. Be sure to carefully consider all the circumstances. And finally, do not hesitate to go public with the truth. Wowzers. And I'm telling you, if you thought, this gave me chills reading Cutting Through at a time like this in our world, wait till you hear the Rave Mandala. So August 8th is where that new moon comes in. We plot the Tropical Astrology on the new moon. That's in Leo, 16 degrees. We farm that out to hexagram 7 on the Rave. And we're going to get a Cancer solution on the Sidereal. So let's explore those two things. First, what is hexagram 7? It's the gate of the role of the self. Isn't that interesting? That's like the hero's journey. It's a gate of logical direction. It's the understanding circuit which leads into the future. And as you know, Uranus is into the future. There's that square there that's pressurizing the future orientation for the ego and the role of the self, hexagram 7. An authoritarian will always be one, regardless. I'm not sure what that means. However, the conditioning power of this gate is enormous and has profound effects on our collective history. Remember the Dreambot and how it was talking about history? Well, it's just incredible how all these things weave together. The authoritarian psyche is also the most programmable psyche. Let that sink in. So I learned this pretty early on in psychology, but it's this determinism thing, this ideal. You get programmed with it, and then you become the authoritarian with that idea. You can't let any other evidence change your mind. So when we get into the line is called the army, the point of convergence. By design, the need for leadership to guide and order society. We need order. And line 4 is the abdicator, the willingness to accept the judgment of the people and or the rule of law. Folks, the influence from the Rave Mandala is a return to the rule of law. And it says the grace and wisdom to step down for the benefit of the whole, the capacity of the self to accept the judgment of others. And this is not just talking about us individually, but you're going to see others already being under this influence. They're calling some weirdo from New York to step down. It's already happened. This energy is already here, folks. All right, let's take a break and get into the final slide. Hang on, the most important is next. If you want to breathe smoothly and breathing in a satisfying life, then learn how to have inner zen. Go to innerzension.com. All right. Here's our summary slide. We have sort of deliverance. We have lots of stories on the hero's journey. Okay, so whatever. That's what you might feel. Most importantly, though, here's how to act. Now, this is interesting. So check out hexagram 21 in the I-Ching. It's cutting through. Confront the tough situation and cut through it. Shake things up. Be authentic. Be honest. Be vigorous, but not hasty. Be purposeful, not arbitrary. Then we have the rave. It's the role of the self. Have the grace and wisdom to step down for the benefit of the whole, and a return to the rule of law. Then we have Cancer. Oh, Cancer, how does this? So we have the army up in the rave. We have cut through it. We have strength in the I-Ching. But then we have Cancer. Cancer is like needing to be protected, right? But action item for Cancer is to nurture, to need to nurture others, to be protective, to be caring. And that's the part that we're going to be. You're going to avoid being moody and pessimistic, and instead, you're going to be maternal and caring as your intention behind these other items. So let me read this out. Here we go. Our task this week is to help the collective cut through the bullshit. It is a very delicate balance of presenting raw truth without shying away from your task of nurturing and protecting others. Thus, the sidereal Cancer becomes the ideal, the intention, and the motivation for the I-Ching behavior of shaking things up and cutting through. Don't cut through for selfish reasons. Don't cut through for impatience. Don't cut through out of fear. Cut through because you care about the collective. You care about your world. The result will hopefully be the rave. The rave aids our search for authentic self and higher wisdom, and influences authority figures with hidden agendas for them to step down for the good of the collective. Remember your microenvironment too. This time to cut through the veil, to tear down the walls, to speak your mind. Now I have a bonus. Here we go. Ready? This new moon in Leo means this is a cycle for the whole month. Leo wants and needs to be seen. It's not only afraid of not being of being seen. It needs to be seen. So we're cutting through, but we're cutting through visibly. In the past, we shied away from verbalizing truth. We heard this from the silent majority. Verbalizing truth was shied upon because we were getting censored. We don't want to be censored. We were driven either by fear, passivity, overconfidence, etc. Maybe overconfidence in being saved or something like that. Follow the lead of prominent people such as Eric Clapton, Cole Beasley, Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider was here in the local area, sold out show, comedy act, and I didn't go, but I heard from friends that it was a massive Uranus type of comedy skit, and very good and very edgy. Not afraid. So cut through your own fears and biases and begin to see that you don't need the majority, even though you are in the majority. You just need to step out confidently in the core you. Don't be afraid to go public with the truth. That was the I-Ching, directly from our suggested solution from the I-Ching. And I'll end with this. I don't currently follow this guy on Twitter, but he's a Leo. I am a Leo currently going through Leo season and Lionsgate portal. My internal is burning completely out of control. Fuck around and find out. I'm not here to stroke anyone's ego. I'm here to hold myself accountable and fix this shit show once and for all. And I think, even though we aren't Leos per se, or some of you are, individually, we own the respective responsibility of helping the collective to cut through to the other side. Don't be silent anymore. Don't live in fear anymore. This is the week. This is the lunar cycle to press through, to cut through, to get the collective over to the other side. And your intention matters. Instead of doing your cutting through out of fear of your own life or your own imprisonment or whatever, do it because you care about others. It's sort of ironic. They want us to guilt trip us into what we're not doing for caring. And we're going to be cutting through for the exact same reason, because we care. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. And have fun with this, but take your power and press through and stay out of fear. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.